welcome. You're watching Head to Head. I'm Antonina Antosha with UATV. Ukrainians marked Volunteers Fighters Day this week as a sign of deep honor of courage of the first defenders of Ukraine's independence. In mid-March 2014, the first fighters started their training before going to the front line in eastern Ukraine. They entered the battalion within the National Guard, which was later named after its first commander, General Kulchytskyi. The battalion has just marked its 5th anniversary. To talk more about this, we're joined in the studio today by Maryna Babchynitser. She is a correspondent officer of the Operational Battalion, named after the hero of Ukraine, General Mayor Sergiy Kulchytskyi. Hello, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, and hello, everybody. But one thing from the beginning, Sergiy Kulchitskiy wasn't the combat. He wasn't a commander of the battalion, actually. He was the head of the training group, and he trained all the people who came from the Maidan to newly created National Guard of Ukraine.
Thank you so much for that clarification. Now,
okay.
Moving on. 5 years ago, the battalion was created by volunteers, people who took active part into the self-defense started from Maidan. 5 years later, what changed?
Well, what can I say? We're different now.
What is the difference?
The difference. 5 years ago, we were like usual people, economists, businessmen, some kind of politicians, some kind of people of the art, like totally different people, and not military at all. But now we are military. Like 5 years, everybody has trained, have been to the front line and lost their friends and their people on front line. So we've changed a lot, and we're trained, but still motivated.
What was your personal experience on the front line?
It wasn't so bad, and it wasn't so extreme as other people had. I was working more with schools and children and civil population there, who lives in cities near the front line.
I wouldn't say brightest, but what is the memory that comes up to your mind first when you think of that time?
You know, the one small but really touching thing, we were driving a car from our checkpoint to our base, and we took a little kitten from the checkpoint. And I held it on my hands, and we stopped the car on the cross line, and 2 small boys on the side of the road, they were watching at us, looking at us, and they just said, one said to another, "Look, she has a kitten on her hand." And another one, he answered, "Yes, because Ukrainian military people, they do love animals." And it was like we didn't lost, and we have a chance to change here in this era. We can change it still, and these people have future, and future in Ukraine, not in Russia.
We all know that now Volunteers Fighters Day is officially a holiday in Ukraine. Why do you think it was important, and it is important, to establish this holiday? It's not just to remember people who stood up first to fight for Ukraine's independence. It's something more than that. What do you think it is?
Well, actually, I think that, first of all, not all the volunteers, they are already has the status in Ukraine, because we know about the Ukrainian volunteer army. They are not serving in like regular military bases, military checkpoints. but they still are fighting there, and they have to be known as volunteers and have the status that they are military, like Ukrainian militaries. And I really think that if not volunteers in the beginning of the 2014, we would lost much more territory.
I've heard that too. I've heard that too, that if it wasn't for volunteers, we would be in a much dismal position than we are now, or we were at the end of 2014. If we compare the state the Ukrainian army was in 2014, when Russia declared or started its undeclared hybrid war, to the state the Ukrainian armed forces are now in 5 years later. How could you evaluate this process? Are we in the process? Are we better?
Of course we are, because it's kind of the symbols now. Because volunteers, they have their like hearts and willing to fight, and like state military parts, they have knowledges and practice. But during these 5 years, of course, all the volunteers, they have the experience already, and they have the experience from the front line, and they are using a bit different tactics, and they can learn, they can teach these tactics, and they can give these knowledges to the state military parts. Like it's like the symbols, like exchange of the knowledges and experience, and probably some small secrets.
What's the communication like? What is the level of communication between volunteers and state servicemen?
It was difficult in the beginning, of course, and especially 2014. It was like, just imagine people from the Maidan, they are coming to the training base of the people who stood on another side. And Sergiy Kulchytskyi wasn't the last person who tried to solve all the conflicts there. And he helped a lot, actually, because it was difficult to find the and to get the trust from the volunteers by the person who was on the other side during the Maidan. But he did. And that's why he was called as Batya, like godfather or something like that, by volunteers, by guys from the Maidan. And it was a really, really big sign of the trust to him.
You personally, would you like to, I wouldn't say stick, but would you like to continue being a part of volunteer battalions of Ukrainian army?
I am here, I'm in this battalion, I'm in this battalion, or with this battalion from the 2013, and I don't want to move right now because I can see the ways we can work further. And I think personally that it's not just about war as war, it's more about hybrid war. And we have to work as well with children there. And that's why we have like a lot of the open lesson classes in schools in Lugansk region. And they are totally different, and it could be some history lessons or classes, it could be something to some celebrations and holidays, but they are willing to learn they're willing to know more things about like Ukraine, and they are looking to that side. It's future. It's future behind them and in front of them. And because of these children, probably we can change the thoughts of their parents as well. Mm-hmm. Because we are telling them something, they're coming home, tell this to their parents, and it's not the once or twice, it should be in a regular matter, and in that way, it could be changed. That's my opinion.
We all hope that it's going to be changed. Thank you so much for coming here, and thank you so much for this conversation. That was Maryna Babchynitser. She's a correspondent officer of the Operational Battalion named after the hero of Ukraine, General Major Sergiy Kulchytskyi. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned with UATV for more.